Tonight at 10, sweeping changes to the Prime Minister's top team after the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, resigns. David Lammy is now the Deputy Prime Minister. Yvette Cooper takes his job as Foreign Secretary, and her role as Home Secretary is given to Shabana Mahmood. The reshuffle was triggered after Angela Rayner was found to have breached the ministerial code by not paying enough stamp duty on a new flat.
Wow, this was a big reshuffle, much bigger than most people here expected. A remoulding of Keir Starmer's government.
Also on the programme tonight, authorities in Portugal confirm 3 Britons have died in the funicular crash in Lisbon. Teams are still working to investigate exactly what caused the accident. The Duchess of Kent, the oldest member of the royal family and the wife of the late Queen's cousin, has died at the age of 92.
Great delivery! That is the first goal!
And defending champions Chelsea get their season off to the best start against title contenders Manchester City.
On BBC London, warnings of travel chaos for nearly all of next week as a tube strike begins on Sunday. We'll have all the details.
Good evening from Downing Street, where the Prime Minister has this afternoon carried out a major cabinet reshuffle after the resignation of Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, over her tax affairs. She was found to have breached the ministerial code by not paying enough stamp duty on a flat in Sussex that she bought in May. The upshot of her dramatic departure this afternoon is a new-look cabinet with David Lammy, now Deputy Prime Minister, Yvette Cooper taking his job as Foreign Secretary, and Shabana Mahmood being brought in as the new Home Secretary. Well, our political editor Chris Mason has been following it all today, and it is fair to say there have been a lot of surprises.
There absolutely has. A day of extraordinary political human drama. To give you a sense of that, Sophie, I've been talking to some of the new cabinet ministers tonight, and there is talk of people getting a call, not in London, on a Friday in their constituency. How far from London are you? Are you in a suit? The answer often being no, better go and get a change of clothes, get to Westminster. Everyone I speak to who's been involved in whatever way in this was surprised by its scale. Now, it had been in the works for a little while. The government had been thinking, the Prime Minister had been thinking about remoulding his team. But it is also true he hadn't been intending to do it this week. He hadn't been intending to do it today. It wasn't necessarily going to be on this scale. And that was all forced forward by what we've seen in the last few days involving Angela Rayner. So plenty to get to for her. A huge moment, of course, for her personally today, losing her job in government. For others, big new jobs to get used to. A little over a year ago, Yvette Cooper walked up Downing Street to become Home Secretary. Now she is Foreign Secretary. Doing that same walk in summer 2024, Shabana Mahmood. Then to become Justice Secretary, she's now the Home Secretary. And David Lammy has been Foreign Secretary.
Have you been demoted, David Lammy?
He is now Justice Secretary, and Deputy Prime Minister.
David Lammy happy with the move?
And all this a headline-grabbing shake-up prompted by the personal foul-up of Angela Rayner. From hard hats to hugs, from party conference to the cabinet table. For 5 years, Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner have been the double act at the top of the Labour Party and over the last year and a bit at the top of government. Today marks the end of this partnership and the end of a saga where her departure looked increasingly inevitable. Commentary like this about a Deputy Prime Minister felt politically unsurvivable. This was a tale of 2 homes, a new flat here in Hove in East Sussex and her home in Ashton-under-Lyne. She no longer owned the house here in Greater Manchester, having sold her stake after a divorce to a trust set up for her disabled child. She was advised that meant she could pay the normal rate of stamp duty on her new place on the south coast. But, as she acknowledged the other day, she later realised she ought to have paid the higher rate charged to those with more than one home.
As soon as I knew that that was the case, I have alerted and referred myself to the independent advisor on the ministerial code to ensure that they can look transparently at what's happened.
Today, Sir Laurie Magnus, the independent advisor, said Angela Rayner has acted with integrity, but she believed that she relied on the legal advice she had received, but unfortunately did not heed the caution contained within it, which acknowledged that it did not constitute expert tax advice and which suggested that expert advice be sought. And so, it is with deep regret that I must advise that in these circumstances I consider the code to have been breached. This prompted Angela Rayner's resignation. In a letter to Keir Starmer, she said, "I deeply regret my decision to not seek additional specialist tax advice. I take full responsibility for this error. It was never my intention to do anything other than pay the right amount." She also reflected, "The challenges of government are nothing compared to the challenge of putting food on the table and getting a roof over our head when I brought up kids working as a home help." The Prime Minister said she'd made the right decision to resign, adding, "I have nothing but admiration for you and huge respect for your achievement in politics." Angela Rayner's resignation, a massive personal moment for her, heralding an equally big moment for Sir Keir Starmer's government. Chris Mason, BBC News at Westminster.
Well, Angela Rayner rose to the very top of government after leaving school at 16 when she was pregnant. She was told at the time that she'd never amount to anything. Ben Wright looks back now on her career.
Angela Rayner is proof that politicians do not all look and sound the same. Grit, graft and ambition propelled her from childhood poverty to the cabinet, a political street fighter who gleefully took on her enemies.
It's one rule for them and one rule for the rest of us.
As the Prime Minister's number 2, she was seen as a future potential leader, a Labour politician with a big character who was fiercely proud of her own past. Angela Rayner was born in Stockport in 1980, grew up in one of its poorest areas and as a child cared for her mum who had depression and bipolar disorder. She would later decide she wanted to be an MP.
I grew up on a council estate, parents on benefits, became a single mother aged 17. It makes me so angry when coalition MP after coalition MP talks down people like me. They should be standing up for people like my family, not rubbishing our aspirations.
After working as a senior trade union official, she was elected to the Commons in 2015, defying those who told the teenage Angela Rayner she would never amount to anything.
I will always tell it how it is. My constituents deserve no less. And I'll do it in my own little northern way. Give it up for the next Prime Minister, my boss, Jeremy Corbyn!
On Labour's left, Angela Rayner was close to Jeremy Corbyn, but after defeat she was elected Labour's deputy leader, a fiery contrast to its more buttoned-up new boss. But her pugnacious style could land her in trouble, such as when she called the Conservatives scum.
Do you stand by your remarks? Are the Tories scum?
I think that Boris Johnson is a racist, misogynist and homophobic guy and he needs to apologise for his comments he's made in the past.
She later apologised and it didn't impede her rise. With Labour in power, Angela Rayner took the lead on workers' rights and house building, one of the major missions of this government. But it's her own housing that has now scuppered the career of one of Labour's loudest and proudest working-class voices. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, Angela Rayner remains the MP for Ashton-under-Lyne. Our correspondent Judith Moritz has been to her constituency to find out what people there think.
It was bin day today in Ashton-under-Lyne. Angela Rayner wasn't home, but as the rubbish lorry reached her place this morning, she was still Housing Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister. By the time the bin men finished their round, though, she'd resigned. Angela Rayner's been the MP here for a decade and her office is in the Market Hall. Some shoppers were showing their loyalty today.
I don't think it's fair. I'm a Labour girl anyway, so, I think she's only human, isn't she? We all make mistakes, but she's being penalised for it.
But we spoke to lots of people here and in general, the lack of support was striking. On the meat counter, butcher Andy Hall was trimming the fat and is of the view that his MP should have been as careful with her financial arrangements.
If she can't run her own affairs, how's she going to run the country? She's Deputy Prime Minister, isn't she? So, you know, you think really she had to go, definitely.
She comes in here sometimes.
She comes past, yeah.
Has there been any sympathy towards the situation she's
I don't think there is, no. There's no sympathy at all, no. No, I think buying that house in Brighton's not gone down well in Ashton either.
Sausage dog Reggie has no views, but Chris and Val out walking him were firm in their disdain for Angela Rayner and don't just want her to step down from her government positions.
I think she ought to resign her position as a Member of Parliament. She still has influence and power within this constituency, and I don't think that's right.
At the balloon shop, they were telling jokes about politicians being full of hot air too. Julie has run the shop for 30 years. She feels that the MP has put Westminster before her constituency and has lost her link with locals.
There are people who feel that it's a class thing and she's not being supported because of where she's come from. Do you see that, or...?
No, she worked for Ashton, so she should have been doing for Ashton, and she hasn't been doing for Ashton. I won an award and I got a letter off her from the Houses of Parliament. So I got the letter, you know, saying, "Congratulations, Julie." She doesn't know me. She doesn't know my shop.
From the top table to the back benches, Angela Rayner remains MP for this town. Her constituents may be seeing more of her, but that doesn't mean they'll give her an easy time. Judith Moritz, BBC News, Ashton-under-Lyne.
Well, Chris Mason is with me. So many changes then just in the last few hours. What is the Prime Minister trying to achieve?
Speaking to people in government tonight, I think they have two challenges that they acknowledge, the two Ds, definition and delivery. What do I mean by definition? Bluntly, can people conclude pretty quickly what they stand for? A persistent critique beyond the government and within it has been that they've been insufficiently clear about what they're all about in a very competitive political environment. And then ultimately, can they deliver? It's all very well people like me talking about human drama involving people getting jobs. In the end, does it amount to anything? Now, speaking to people in government tonight, they think that they're putting round pegs in round holes. So there's talk, for instance, of Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, on the right of the party, seem to be unflinching about some of those key issues, particularly around illegal migration and small boats. And also a sense that Keir Starmer has assembled something of what was described to me as a kitchen cabinet. In other words, a core group of people who understand him and his project, who will be on hand in there as well as doing their wider government jobs. Peter Kyle, David Lammy, Darren Jones, for instance, who was brought in just the other day from the Treasury. So that's the aim, but the test is, does it work in a way that people notice?
Because they're all just back from the summer break. This has been an extremely turbulent week. A headache the Prime Minister did not need. Is it going to be enough to calm things?
That's the key question in the end. You know, he talked at the beginning of the week about phase 2 of his government and then spent the entire week dealing with those terrible headlines about Angela Rayner, and then has tried to make the best of that terrible week by doing the reshuffle now. You know, speaking to the opposition parties, to Conservatives, Liberal Democrats, Reform, you know, they all make the argument that it's about exactly that. Does it amount to delivery? Is it just yet more churn in senior government positions? The number of foreign secretaries we've seen in just the last 4 or 5 years under 2 different parties of government, really quite something. And then a key point as well in all of this, Sophie, an awareness in there of the coming political battle, as they see it, between Labour and Reform. Can they assemble a team with sufficient definition and delivery to take on the rising tide, if you like, of support for reform? Because the last year has suggested they can't. They have to hope this new team means they can. That's a big test.
Chris Mason, thank you. And talking of reform, the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has told his party to be ready for an early election in 2027, saying Labour is deep in crisis. He was speaking in Birmingham at his party's annual conference, and he told delegates that Reform would stop all small boat crossings within 2 weeks of winning power. From Birmingham, here's Joe Pike.
Victory at the local elections gave Reform a peek at power. This growing fan base hopes much more is possible. And the boss believes he's assembling an enviable team.
Is your party more than a one-man band, Mr Farage? Have a look. Have a look.
His latest teammate, former Tory Cabinet Minister Nadine Dorries, who Mr Farage has been rather rude about in the past.
What changed your mind on Nadine Dorries, Mr Farage?
No, I think Nadine Dorries has changed her mind and she's realised that the Conservative Party is dead. As she said, it's dead. It's had it.
He's also attempting to capitalise on Labour's problems. Angela Rayner's resignation meant Farage's fireworks were detonated 3 hours earlier than planned.
The reason that I've moved this speaking time forward is because this government is deep in crisis. We are the patriotic party. We are the party that stands up for decent working people, and we are the party on the rise.
Today he announced a new department to help Reform get ready for the possibility of government. And he argued that splits on the left mean that could come far sooner than expected.
I think there is every chance now of a general election happening in 2027, and we must be ready.
Nigel Farage pledged serious cuts to the benefits bill, and he made this promise.
We will stop the boats within 2 weeks of winning government.
He didn't say how that'll be achieved, but his party's immigration policies seem popular amongst members and a lot of voters too.
Reform's sustained lead in the opinion polls is remarkable, but maintaining it for years could be difficult. It's perhaps why today Nigel Farage spoke so much about preparedness and unity.
I'm blown away by Nigel's speech. I think it's what Britain's crying out for.
Your critics argue the numbers don't add up.
That's absolutely nonsense. Look at this current government. They don't know whether they're talking about a 20 billion black hole or a 30 billion black hole.
And what do you want to cut?
We've got to cut, for example, all the waste, the unnecessary waste. We've got to get
like
people
what?
back to work. Well, for example, the welfare budget.
This conference may have been overshadowed by events at Westminster, but Reform remain bullish about their chances in the years ahead. Joe Pike, BBC News, Birmingham.
And just to say, Laura Kuensberg will be talking to Nigel Farage live on BBC One on Sunday morning, and she'll be getting all the latest reaction to the reshuffle as well. That's 9 o'clock on BBC One on Sunday. That's it from us in Downing Street. Riz Lateef has the rest of the day's news. Riz.
Thanks very much, Sophie. In other news, 3 British nationals are among 16 people who died in the funicular railway crash in Lisbon on Wednesday. More than 20 others were injured, some seriously, after the popular tourist attraction derailed and crashed at high speed into a building. Well, Jessica Parker is in Lisbon for us this evening. Jess, what more do we know?
Yes, good evening. As you can see, the street where the crash happened now empty. Those famous funicular carriages removed after the upper car lost control on Wednesday and crashed into a bend. As you mentioned, we learned today that 3 of the victims are from the UK. Their names haven't been officially confirmed, but Portuguese police have told us that they were an 82-year-old man, a 44-year-old man and a 36-year-old woman. And we've just heard from Cheshire Police, who said that the 44-year-old and the 36-year-old are believed to be from the northwest of England. Victims came from all over the world because, of course, this was a popular tourist attraction, but locals used it as well. And I was at a service earlier today for 4 Portuguese charity workers who also died. And speaking to people there, yes, there was grief, but there was also anger. There's been a lot of scrutiny here about the adequacy of inspections, of maintenance, of the condition of the cable that connected the 2 cars, particularly given Lisbon's tourism boom and the popularity of this funicular. Now, Lisbon's public transport operator has said that maintenance protocols were followed. We expect a preliminary report about all of this and what may have happened within 6 weeks. But of course, many people wanting answers as to how this historic landmark could become the site of such an appalling catastrophe.
Jessica Parker in Lisbon, many thanks. President Trump has signed an executive order officially changing the name of the US Department of Defense to the Department of War. Often referred to as the Pentagon after its district headquarters in Virginia, the Department of Defense was named after the Second World War. The move will need congressional approval before it becomes law. Mr. Trump said he'd been considering the rebrand for some time.
We won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War, and I'd like to ask our Secretary of War to say a few words. Pete Hegseth. I think it's a much more appropriate name, especially in light of where the world is right now.
Meanwhile, the city of Chicago is gearing up for an expected deployment of National Guard troops ordered by Donald Trump over what he calls out-of-control crime. The US president said this week the military would be going in following similar moves in Los Angeles and Washington. But Chicago's Democrat leadership is vowing to resist, challenging his authority to deploy forces and saying the move is a front for an immigration crackdown. Tom Bateman reports.
On the south side of Chicago, few seem braced for President Trump's troops. But many here will tell you about a different battle, one for the souls of the young.
How many of y'all been to the joint or been to the county? Raise your hand. Keep your hand raised if you've been shot. I wasn't born like
Rob White works to stop the allure of gangs, part of a citywide plan that's helped drive a big drop in violent crime over the last 2 years. With fellow worker Ali, we passed the site of a drive-by attack that wounded 7 at the weekend.
When the president says he's going to send the troops here, what do you say?
Troops are already here. We the troops. We the troops. What you need?
That's a great way to put that, bro.
Increase what's already being done. Your outcome is already happening. Why change the cook in the kitchen if the meal is good?
The Democrat-run city points to cuts in crime prevention funding by the Trump administration. Chicago is now a flashpoint, channeling America's divisions. And the lines become stark when we cross into the next neighborhood. Here, Mr. Trump's threat to militarize a third US city resonates.
Yeah? Tell us. You can't wait till they get here.
That's right.
Why is that?
Why not? Because you got to get rid of the criminals. The city's crazy. Too much crime. It's common sense.
I'm scared to go out. If you do, you got to carry a gun.
And then there are the worries that Mr. Trump's immigration raids loom. In one Latino neighborhood, workers demand protections.
What are people feeling in these communities? What's the mood?
Fear. A lot of them don't want to go out and come out anymore because of it, because they fear of getting caught.
Mr. Trump's troops will enter the charged politics of this city. But for people on the south side, there is no military solution to the problems that have gripped generations. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Chicago.
Now, Matt Chorley has details of what's coming up on Newsnight over on BBC Two at 10:30.
Yeah, thanks, Wiz. Tonight, Donald Trump's former deputy, Mike Pence, speaks to Newsnight, and as Keir Starmer loses his deputy, where does that leave his premiership tonight? That's Newsnight, 10:30, BBC Two on iPlayer and around the world on BBC News.
Thanks very much, Matt. President Putin has warned that any Western troops deployed to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire would be legitimate targets for attack. The Russian president made the comments at an economic forum in Vladivostok, close to the Chinese and North Korean borders. It comes after 26 nations from the so-called Coalition of the Willing promised to guarantee Ukraine's post-war security. Here's our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg.
He was here to talk about the economy in Russia's Far East. But Vladimir Putin had a message for the West. Don't send your soldiers to Ukraine.
If some troops appear there, especially now while the fighting's continuing, we proceed from the premise that these will be legitimate targets for destruction.
Only yesterday, European leaders pledged post-war security guarantees for Ukraine, including an international reassurance force on land, sea and in the air. The Kremlin is fiercely opposed.
We consider it a danger for us, presence of international forces or any foreign forces or NATO country forces on the soil of Ukraine next to our borders. So in our understanding, it will not help us get closer to the solution of the Ukrainian conflict.
But why doesn't Ukraine have the right, as far as Russia is concerned, to invite whoever it wants, whichever soldiers it wants, onto its territory. I mean, Russia is inviting North Korean troops.
Then it's a danger for us. It's a real danger for us because we are an enemy of NATO.
North Korean troops are a danger to Ukraine.
Written in NATO's documents. So we cannot afford that. And we'll do whatever is necessary to ensure our security.
And anyway, who needs peacekeepers if there's no war, says the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin made this argument. If there's a peace deal on Ukraine, then there'll be no need for foreign peacekeepers in Ukraine because Russia will stick to the agreement. In other words, you can trust the Kremlin. That's a big ask for Ukraine, and Western leaders are likely to be sceptical too. And suspicious of President Putin's offer. He says he's ready to meet President Zelensky, but in Moscow. It's the best place for it, he says. The home crowd was loving it. But the bigger picture? There is no sign of peace, with the Kremlin leader in no mood to compromise. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Vladivostok.
The Duchess of Kent has died at the age of 92. She was the oldest member of the royal family and was married to the Duke of Kent, the late Queen's cousin. As well as her charity work, she was also a familiar figure at the Wimbledon Tennis Championships. Buckingham Palace said the King and Queen mourned her loss and remembered her fondly. Daniela Relf looks back at her life.
Here she comes now, this most charming girl, isn't she sweet?
She was one of the first outsiders to join the British royal family in the post-war era. In June 1961, at York Minster, 28-year-old Catherine Worsley, the daughter of a Yorkshire landowner, married the Duke of Kent, first cousin to Elizabeth II. She adapted well to her new role, bringing warmth and compassion to it. The royal couple had 3 children, but another longed-for baby was stillborn. It was a period of intense emotional turmoil.
Just half a cup, Mrs. Divins.
Yes, please.
There you are.
Ta.
The Duchess found solace in her charity work. She supported the lonely and the bereaved and combined royal dignity with displays of human tenderness, especially when working with children.
Our children are so happy. They give so much. The courage they give you, the migraine you had when you arrived, you just forget about very quickly.
But for many people, the Duchess is best remembered at Wimbledon, where she regularly presented the winner's trophy, famously comforting a tearful Jana Novotná, the losing finalist in 1993. A year later, the Duchess of Kent converted to Catholicism, the first member of the royal family to do so in 300 years. By now, she had largely opted out from royal duties. Instead, she found huge personal satisfaction as a qualified music teacher at state schools in London and Hull. Music had been a lifelong love.
I didn't change. You don't change just because you marry. And music was my passion when I was a child before I married, and it still is, and it's what I do from the heart.
The Duchess of Kent found fulfilment beyond the royal family. Quietly, behind the scenes, she used her very human qualities to enrich the lives of others.
The Duchess of Kent, who's died at the age of 92. Turning to sport now, and in the men's semi-finals at the US Open tennis in New York, 24-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic is taking on Carlos Alcaraz in the first match. Football and Scotland have got their World Cup qualification campaign off to a good start, holding Denmark to a draw in Copenhagen this evening. Napoli midfielder Scott McTominay forced this save in the first half, and Scotland defended well against the higher-ranked Danes to secure a point. The new Women's Super League season began tonight, with the professional game in England now bigger than ever after a second triumph at the Euros. Reigning champions Chelsea beat Manchester City 2-1. Joe Curry reports from Stamford Bridge.
The stars of the summer returning to Super League action. Women's football is centre stage once again, but could some of that England magic now sprinkle across the league?
Come on, Chelsea! When the Lionesses first won the Euros in 2022, attendances initially grew by 200%. The question is, now they've won it again, how will the game kick on?
The reigning champions getting things underway against a team who eye the trophy themselves this season. The match got off to a controversial moment. What initially looked to be a good save could have been a penalty for handball, but with still no VAR in the league, nothing given. Chelsea, though, put that behind them on the half-hour mark as they broke the deadlock. A pacey run, a perfect cross, met by Aggie Beaver-Jones to net the season opener. At the other end, Alex Greenwood thundered one against the woodwork. After the break, Chelsea doubled their lead. The ball again coming down the right, this time Micah Hamano getting on the end of it. All too easy. And then they scored again, but this time into the wrong net. The ball coming off Niamh Charles to give City a lifeline. And whilst they searched for an equaliser, they found no way through. So Chelsea picking up where they left off last season. Can anybody catch them? Jo Curry, BBC News, Stamford Bridge.
OK, let's get a check on the weather, the weekend weather with Stav. And I think it's fair to say some welcome sunshine today.
Yes, Liz. In fact, it looks like a taste of summer again, not just today, but over the next couple of days, thanks to high pressure. Things are warming up. Good evening to you. It was quite warm today. We saw temperatures hit 24 degrees in Fritton and in Kent. It could be a little bit warmer than that over the weekend, but it will be turning windy and there is a chance of some rain pushing in later on Sunday, mainly across western areas, but further east it should stay dry. It's all because of this area of high pressure building in over the near continent. Tonight, the winds will be light and under clear skies. It'll turn quite chilly again for England and Wales. Maybe just one or two showers peppering coasts of Northern Ireland, maybe southwest Scotland. But inland, quite cool, single digits. But southern coasts, we'll see those temperatures begin to rise as we start to pick up this southerly breeze. So tomorrow then, cool start, lots of sunshine around through the morning. Into the afternoon, could see a bit of the high cloud develop. That'll make the sunshine hazy. But there'll be a lot of sunshine across the country, strengthening southerly winds. Temperatures reaching the mid-20s in the warmest spots, even low 20s further north. Now, this area of low pressure will start to push into western areas during Sunday, and you'll see a lot of isobars on the chart. So it's going to be a windy day, gusts of 40, 50 miles an hour on Irish sea coast, and some of the rain here could be heavy and thundery. But central and eastern England, particularly the southeast, parts of northeast Scotland, should stay dry all day, and it'll be warm again, mid-20s at least in the southeast. High teens, low 20s in the north. Into Monday, we start to see some changes. Winds coming in now off the Atlantic again. Sunshine and showers, but most of the showers will be across the west. Many central and eastern areas will stay dry, and I think it'll be another dry day for the southeast. 22 or 23 degrees. But those valleys started to come down out west, and that is the theme of things to come. We see low pressure returning to our shores for the week. Some of the rain will be heavy and thundery in places. We could see some deep lows as well, so that could bring some gales, and temperatures also coming down a little bit closer to what we expect in early September. That's it, Riz.
Stav, thanks very much. And that's the BBC News at 10. Plenty more, of course, on the BBC News website. So thanks very much for watching. Now it's time for the news and our colleagues where you are. A very good night.